Welcome back guys to another Cyberpunk video and to the new ultimate best Sandevistan build that is even better than ever before. Despite CDPR trying their best to nerf Sandevistan down to the ground in patch 2.1, I have found multiple ways to make this even better and even stronger than ever before. Welcome to the new ultimate best Sandevistan build that gives you over 1 minute Sandevistan duration with absolute zero charge time. This build will not only give you more Sandevistan and a longer duration than ever, it is also just plain simple the most powerful and best Sandevistan build I have ever made for this game, and definitely the best one you can make in patch 2.1. If you play this build correctly, you will get over 1 minute duration without any sacrifice, even for the apogee or the falcon, no matter which one you want to use. And of course, all this footage was recorded on very hard difficulty, including the max tech kills. One of the big changes in patch 2.1 are the big nerfs, especially for the axolotl, which was reduced from 12.5% cooldown duration to only 7.5 cooldown duration increase. That means when you use the axolotl together with either one of the apogee or falcon Sandevistans, you will have a much harder time to keep it active and prolong your Sandevistan effect. The apogee Sandevistan was hit especially hard. It went down from 8 seconds duration to only 6 seconds and from 20% duration extension to only 10%. And even the Falcon Sandevistan was nerfed from having a 10% duration extension to only have a 5% duration extension per kill after patch 2.1. All these changes were basically done to prevent us from having a permanent Sandevistan that will actually never stop when fighting enough enemies. So with the effects of axolotl and the duration extension from your Sandevistans alone, it is much harder to keep it up and almost impossible to keep it up forever. But the duration extension actually doesn't really matter. If your base duration is actually already over 1 minute, you will basically have no issues playing with Sandevistan anymore. To understand how we get to over 1 minute duration, we have to check out the stats for the most common Sandevistans, the apogee Sandevistan and the falcon Sandevistan when used together with the axolotl. First of all, the duration is actually much bigger than only the 6 or 8 seconds, because you will get an additional 2 seconds from Reflex 20 and an additional 15% from the warranty extension perk from the tech tree. That gives you a total of 9.2 seconds for the apogee and 11.5 seconds for the falcon Sandevistan. It is also interesting to note, while having a different duration, the time extension per kill is almost similar with 1.6 seconds and 1.4 seconds respectively. But if you equip the Quantum Tuner additionally, you will triple your duration for the apogee to be over 27.6 seconds and for the falcon to be 34.5 seconds. And that doesn't even account the time you get for the additional kills. So with this combination, you will easily get over 1 minute duration for any of these two Sandevistans. The way this works is when you have the Quantum Tuner equipped and your Sandevistan actually runs out of charge, the Quantum Tuner is instantly refilling your entire Sandevistan charge. You just have to activate it again. After the first charge, only the first half of the tuner is used, and when you run out again of Sandevistan, it will refill it one more time, literally tripling your Sandevistan charge. Despite having an insanely long base duration for one of the most powerful items in the game, don't forget that you can activate and deactivate it at any time you want and at any charge level. So you should try to household your Sandevistan charge to maximize this effect even further by only activating it if there's an enemy or an immediate threat, and immediately deactivating it after killing all the enemies around you. Using all of these tips efficiently will literally give you infinite Sandevistan even after patch 2.1. There's only one downside, since the Quantum Tuner can only be recharged outside of combat, so you can't use your axolotl to even refill the Quantum Tuner. That would be basically too overpowered. So after knowing all the basics, there are still multiple ways to play this build. Of course, you can basically use any weapon you want together with Sandevistan, but there are certain weapons which are just so much better to use with this build. One of my personal favorites is to play Sandevistan with a shotgun build, and especially with the Sovereign shotgun, which is literally one-shotting everyone around you. The second most OP way to play Sandevistan is probably by using a katana. You can either use the Byakko or the scalpel. Both items will be extremely good for you, especially the scalpel will work wonders on lower level. But it is also completely valid to use Sandevistan to play with a pistol and simply one-shot everyone thanks to the super high headshot multiplier, especially when using the Pride. Sandevistan is also super OP when playing with sniper rifles, because every time you aim at them, you can simply immobilize them, giving you a much easier target to hit. Of course, you can also use some other fancy weapons such as a Raiju tech gun, which is shooting so fast that it is the only really usable SMG in combination together with Sandevistan. But no matter which playstyle or weapon you want to play with this build will literally give you the best and most powerful experience in Cyberpunk patch 2.1. In terms of strength and power, thanks to the infinite Sandevistan, it will even outperform any Netrunner build. By the way, if you want to support me creating more of these crazy builds, then maybe consider to become a Patreon or YouTube member or check out our Discord server. But now let's finally check out the build, guys. One of my most preferred weapon types when I play with Sandevistan build are shotguns, and especially the Sovereign shotgun. The Sovereign shotgun does not only have 100% guaranteed crits at low distance, but thanks to the reload which it performs every time after you shoot it, you will also get the additional damage bonus from using the micro generator. The second best weapon type for Sandevistan builds are probably blades, and especially the scalpel or the byakko. Guys, you have actually convinced me to use the byakko on high level thanks to its insane attack speed, but if you're playing on lower levels, the scalpel might still be very good for you because it increases your crit chance dramatically. The third slot you can basically use for whatever else you want to play with. For example, you can use a sniper rifle. For that I would recommend to use a Sparky, but you can also equip a pistol such as the Pride and equip it with Kanotsugu optics and a really good silencer that gives you 150% stealth damage. But of course, the Raiju attack gun is also an extremely valid option that is also insanely fun to play with. For the operating system, I picked the Militech Falcon Sandevistan because the Falcon Sandevistan has a much longer basic duration, which gets even further amplified when you triple this duration by using the Quantum Tuner. However, using the Epokee is also absolutely valid since it gives you more damage, more crit chance and more everything, just for a slightly reduced duration, which basically doesn't matter when you use the Quantum Tuner. But the Falcon is definitely the better pick for maximum duration. The micro generator also got a slight nerf in patch 2.1 since it now depends on the amount of bullets you reload. So maximum amount of damage is only reached by reloading 5 bullets, and since the Sovereign reloads 2 bullets every time, we basically only get 40% of the micro generator, but that still means we get an additional 100 DPS, which is still very good. And of course we'll also use the blood pump to trigger auto healing, so we don't have to care about using any healing items. Let's go to the Cyberware. For this build I recommend you have at least 320 capacity, however you can of course also use lower quality items or drop some items which are not really essential for this build. Increasing your Cyberware capacity is no longer an issue. Even at max level 60 you can now find an endless amount of Cyberware capacity shards by just killing random gang members in Reconciliation Park. They even drop legendary shards, so you can easily get 100 capacity in less than 30 minutes. The most important items to get the maximum potential for this build are of course the Quantum Tuner in combination with the Axolotl and either the Epokee or the Militech Falcon Sandevistan. The second most important items are your healing items. Everything else is just for increasing your armor or your damage or crit chance. So anything else can be changed or adapted if you have to. As it was explained in the beginning of the video, the Quantum Tuner allows you to recharge your Sandevistan 2 times, so you can use a triple amount of duration from either the Epokee or the Militech Sandevistan. However, to maximize the potential for the Quantum Tuner, you should not place any other item, any other Cyberware that has a cooldown in your build. Only use a Sandevistan, don't use Reflex Tuner, Second Heart or anything else that has a cooldown, because that would waste the Quantum Tuner's capacity for something you don't want to use it for. Even though it got nerfed, the Axolotl is still a good item to further increase the duration for your Sandevistan, and for the operating system here I would strongly recommend to go for the Militech Falcon Sandevistan because it simply has the longest duration. However, you can perfectly make this build even by picking the Epokee Sandevistan. Together with the Quantum Tuner, the Epokee Sandevistan can still be used and is just as good as before. It even has a higher damage, more crit chance, but for the pure duration and the ease of use, and since it also gives you 10% additional health for every kill you make, I would rather recommend the Falcon Sandevistan. For the eyewear, I recommend you go for the Kiroshi Cockatrice optics that give you additional 30% crit chance, especially if you play with the byakko, because the byakko doesn't give you crit chance, but if you reach Shinobi 60, you may no longer need this. The arm slot I would actually leave empty, since it is now patched that these items definitely now cost capacity, so you can no longer equip them for free, and using a normal katana is always a better option that gives you additional perks and bonuses compared to Mantis Blades or Gorilla Arms. In the skeleton slots we basically go for maximum armor. For that we use the Epimorphic Skeleton and the Parabellum. The Parabellum is still better than the Rara Avis, especially below 1000 armor. And in the third slot we go for Dance Marrow to maximize our melee damage. However, if you don't want to go for melee with your Sandevistan build, you can simply equip the Bionic Joints to further improve your armor value. In the nervous system, definitely don't go for reflex tuner or anything that has a cooldown, since it will basically completely cripple the quantum tuner's ability to refill your Sandevistan, but you can definitely use a stabber to further increase the crit chance for using your blades. In the integumentary system, the subdermal armor gives you a great value of armor for just little capacity, and I would definitely recommend you go for carapace. If you're shot from multiple sides, the carapace will increase your armor potential. If you still have some capacity left, you can also go for the proxy shield, or if you have even more, you can use a pain editor in your third slot. In our hand slot, we'll go for the micro generator to get additional damage for our shotgun, and in the circulatory system, definitely go for heal on kill. Heal on kill gives you 7.5% health after patch 2.1, but that stacks on top of the existing 10% from the Falcon Sandevistan. So with every kill you make when the Falcon Sandevistan is active, you will get back 17.5% health, which is just insane and helps you keeping you alive just as good as if you used a Berserk mod. The other two items, of course, will be Blood Pump and Biomonitor, because the Biomonitor will automatically trigger the Blood Pump to heal you without having to worry about any healing items. For the additional stats, I would recommend you go for as much headshot damage, health and health item recharge speed as you can. For the skill distribution, I would recommend you go for 20 body, 20 reflex, 20 tech, and the remaining points all put into cool. That will give you the maximum crit chance and Sandevistan duration from reflex, the maximum cyberware capacity and the maximum critical damage. The body tree is by far the one with the most perks we will get, however everything that is on the right side is only purely for blunt weapons or gorilla arms, so if you don't want to play with blunt weapons or gorilla arms, then you can save all these points and put them somewhere else. Of course, you should pick up all the health and health regeneration perks here at the bottom, and then in the center definitely go for everything that is connected to your adrenaline, because that is simply insanely powerful. The finisher perk in the cool tree is actually really good, since it gives you 20% additional health item recharge, which really helps you to refill your blood pump charge. And every time the blood pump is used, you will also gain adrenaline, so using the blood pump is an absolute mandatory thing. If you want to play with shotguns, definitely go for the left tree, die, close quarters carnage will increase the obliteration chance. Also definitely go for bloodlust, because every time you obliterate an enemy with bloodlust, you will get additional adrenaline from it. If you want to play with blunt weapons, then on the right side, all you have to do is basically going for the quake, the ripple effect, and then of course the blunt weapon finishers, which is absolutely mandatory. Without those blunt weapon finishers, they are only half as good. In the reflex tree, it is actually also possible to go for only 15 reflex, however, then you lose a bit of crit chance and also a bit of Sandevistan duration, so I definitely recommend you go for 20 points. The most mandatory abilities in the reflex tree, of course, are Flash and Thunderclap to leap forward to your enemies, and then the Blade Weapon's finisher perks, so you should grab all the points that lead to those two abilities. You should go for Slippery, Dash, then Lead and Steal, and everything that leads towards Flash and Thunderclap here in the middle. Then you should go for the finishers and everything that improves your finishers, and last but not least, you can also go for Air Dash if you want to. The tech tree is completely standard. We will go for all things Cyber, License to Chrome and the Edgerunners perk. I've also experimented with the Cyborg perk to fill every remaining slot with some random cheap cyberware, but it's not really worth to do that. But definitely go for the warranty extension, because that will increase your Sandevistan duration. Of course, don't forget the perks that increase your capacity and also that give you additional stats such as Driver Update and the Shipware Connoisseur. In the left tree, we'll go for Glutton for War, Health Freak and Pyromaniac, and basically everything that improves your survivability, your health items and health item recharge speed. All the remaining points can be spent in the cool tree, where we'll go for Feline Footwork to increase your movement speed, and if you still have some leftover points, you can also put them here on the stealth perks. All the additional points here are basically only meant for getting additional critical damage, because every attribute point put into cool will increase your critical damage. I've also made sure that you need no more than 80 points to make this build, but of course if you have more, you can of course spend more. The relic tree is not really important, but if you want to play with Mantis Blades or Gorilla Arms, then definitely get those perks. Special thanks to my superfans Grateful Golem and James Carroll. I hope you really like this build. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave me a like, and see you next time.